Oh, perfect. This is great. All right, I'm back until I'm not. So anyway, we're going to get started. Today's topic is, today it's July 23rd, not the 22nd. I put this together yesterday. Our topic chat will be about insurance. And this is a pretty popular topic. It seems like it's not. It wouldn't be, because who wants to talk about insurance? I can tell you I actively avoid my insurance agents because he always feels like he's trying to sell me on another policy, right? And he probably is. But even when it's in my best interest, it's just, talking to him is always just so depressing, because the idea of insurance is so, like, you have to have it for all the terrible things that could happen to you. That being said, when you look at our independent consulting page, the number one topic, or one of the biggest topics, is about business insurance. And there's been 135 requests for more information about business insurance. Sorry, and you can tell my electricity just turned back on. Yeah. All right, so anyway, I'm going to talk about 5 types of insurance today. And there's lots and lots and lots of types of insurance. I'm not even, I have some other ones that I'll cover real briefly, but here's 5 big ones that you want to be thinking about if you own an independent consulting practice. You're going to talk about general liability, professional liability, which is sometimes known as errors and omissions, property, major medical and health, and workers' compensation. And I can talk with more detail about these 3 because these are the 3 that I have right now. So let's talk about general liability insurance. If you own a business, you need to have general liability insurance. That's one of the first things you should do, because it's just the basis for having a business. If you don't have it, eventually you'll be required to have it if you have a contract that's over a certain amount. This is the type of insurance that covers you if you're, like I'm speaking at AEA. If somebody trips over my cord at the presentation and they want to sue me because of negligence, then if they want to sue me because of negligence, then the general liability would cover me. If they come to visit me in my office and something minor happens, or happens in my parking lot or somewhere like that, that's, well, maybe not my parking lot, that might be property insurance. But the point is it's the basic insurance that you need for running a business in the event something happens. Now, the next one is different, and people don't always know the difference between professional liability and general liability. Professional liability is specific to your work product as a consultant, as an independent evaluator. It covers you from a suit that alleges your evaluation may have created some harm, however you want to define harm. So we as evaluators make decisions. We suggest answers to our evaluation questions, and we give suggestions on what you may want to do within a project. So as a result, if somebody does that and something terrible happens, then they may have a claim against you. And that's where your professional liability insurance comes in. And after we get done, I want to chat about this and see if anybody knows of anyone who's ever had a claim against their professional liability insurance. Because I keep hearing about, like, I'm glad I had it, but I don't know that anybody's ever made a claim. So I'm always interested in that. So because of that, our insurance is usually a little less expensive than maybe perhaps an architect. Because if an architect makes a mistake in their architectural plans, a building may fall down. And that's probably a little bit more expensive than what may happen to us. I didn't know about professional liability insurance, and a lot of people don't until they get that big contract. For me, it was over $20,000 at a university. And they said, you need this type of insurance. And I went, I do? Anyhow, it's something that you probably should have anyway, but it's something that as you develop at a certain point, you hit a threshold of a contract, somebody's probably going to ask you to demonstrate that you have that policy. Since I'm an educational researcher and I'm a member of AERA, the American Educational Research Association, I get my insurance through them. You may want to check around, if you're not, check around with your professional associations to find out who may be able to offer it for you. you don't ask AEA. We've had this conversation. It's like every couple of years, the conversation comes up again. Why can't AEA get together an insurance program? The answer is it's just too complicated and they're not interested in it. But I think it should not cost more than $1,000. I did originally pay more than $1,000 when I went through a brokerage. So look around. If it's more than $1,000 per year, you're probably paying too much. But I say that because I was paying more than $1,000 a year at first until I found it through AERA, because we're really not a big risk. We're not a high risk. And so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Also make sure whoever you're talking with knows your business and they know that we are, for the most part, relatively low risk. Damages really don't occur because of evaluation findings that I'm aware of. So professional liability and E&O, errors and omissions, are for the most part one and the same. But I understand in New York State, if you're there, they actually have a different type of a policy that you may need both, but that's because New York's complicated. All right, let's talk about property. So property insurance covers, well, your equipment and furniture or whatever. Maybe it's your a big screen. Hey, look, I figured out how to turn on the camera. Anyhow, so you may, like your computer equipment, any kind of expensive equipment that you may have. If you rent or lease a building, you may be required to have renter's insurance. I think technically I'm required to where I am, but I don't have it, and I never checked. I don't have property insurance right now because even for my computers, mostly because you know, most everything I have is not very expensive. My computers are sort of expensive, but I used to hold insurance policies on them, and I ended up spending more on the policies than I did on the computers. So I figured if something happens, most of our computers are backed up to the cloud. So there's not, I don't think there's as much risk for me. Now you also want to check if you, through your credit card companies, your insurance would only be good for 90 days, but sometimes that's, you know, that's another type of insurance that you may have. Major medical and health. Okay, so I think this is an ongoing conversation that we've been having for years and years. Canada is different than the United States. Let's move to Canada because you really do have more of an incentive to become an independent consultant there because your health insurance, your medical insurance is state sponsored, where in the United States it's not. Most of us use our spouse's insurance. I do. It's still very expensive for her, but I haven't found that it's less expensive to go out on my own. At some point, if my business continues to grow, I imagine I'm going to start offering health insurance to my employees. I have one employee right now, and he works through his wife as well. I went through the health exchange yesterday and started filling out the applications just for fun to find out what that would be like. And they made the point that because my wife and I would make more than $129,000 in a year, there would be no support. And it's almost like they wouldn't let me go any further. Anyway, so another thing to know, and this isn't just about medical insurance, but or health insurance. This is something for everything that you do as far as benefits. But for health insurance, if you offer yourself a Cadillac plan, you know, a really high-end plan, legally you are required to provide that same plan to all of your employees. So you need to make sure you look into that. Maybe talk to a small business lawyer about that, or your accountant who would know about that. But for instance, I offer myself health club memberships to the university, and I provide the same amount to my employee, Tom, who uses that towards his gym that he goes to. He doesn't want to go to the same gym, but I provide that as a benefit to him. I have to legally. Workers' compensation. So this is not a necessary insurance unless you have an employee. And I actually say this because when you're looking at contracts that you need to sign for large organizations, they often require you to have workers' compensation. You need to make sure you put a line through that, or you talk to that organization and have that removed from the contract, because you don't need it if you're only one person, because you don't need to cover yourself for workers' compensation. But if you have more than one person, you need to have workers' compensation in case of an accident where somebody might get hurt on the job. I kind of just followed an ad from QuickBooks, and I did it through Hartford, and it cost me like $20 or $30 a month. It's really I was expecting it to be very expensive, but again, they understood our part. So that's why you want to make sure your carrier knows that we're low risk in what we do. So some other types of insurance coverages, travel insurance. Last year, Gail Barrington and Laura Keene and I were sitting and she was talking about how she always buys travel insurance. And afterwards, both Laura and I were kind of snickering about it. Like, can you believe she buys travel insurance? Who does that? Well, I got to tell you, I think she's having the last laugh right now because of COVID-19. I don't know how many problems I've had because I couldn't travel because everything got canceled. I think a lot of you understand life insurance. There are organizations, the businesses who will take out life insurance policies for their employees. My wife has one. I don't know of anybody in the independent consulting TIG who's done that. If you own an auto, a car for your business, which I used to do, you need to have car insurance for your business-owned auto. May want to think about extended warranty. That's kind of insurance. Similar to insurance, you may want an extended warranty on some of your expensive equipment. Greater risk than some. If you have a board, you probably want to think about having directors and officers insurance. So I'm on our Homeowners Association board. I'm on the Evaluation Association of St. Louis board. We have insurance for our directors. And then an umbrella policy. That's usually a policy that covers everything else. If you hit the maximum, like if somebody sues you for $2 million and you only have a $1 million policy, the umbrella policy would kick in after that. So that's a broad overall policy. So I have 5.5 suggestions for you for insurance today. Number one, insurance brokers will save you money. So for the most part, you want to go to brokers. A brokerage is different than like an Allstate or a State Farm, which will only offer you insurance through their company. A brokerage will look to several different companies. Usually they're smaller companies, and they will find the best price for what you're looking for. Now, my insurance broker did not understand my professional liability insurance, and I was paying over $1,000. So I don't use them for that, but I do use them for my general liability. And they actually may be good for your workers' compensation too. Know your NAICS code, and that's the North American Industry Classification System code, 61171. I think, 611710 is mine. And you can go look that up. This is a hot link, a URL, if you want to go look that up. That's for educational consultants. So if you're not in the education business, it wouldn't make sense for you, but you can see it. But it'll also take you to where you could look yours up if you want to hit that hot link in this slide. This is an early version of this. I pulled up the wrong one. I guess I was trying to say inquire about different discounts. Check around for professional liability. Check you want to check to see which professional associations may be able to support your professional liability, because you're going to probably find it cheaper through a professional association than through like the brokerage. But brokers generally are the better way to go, except for maybe the professional liability. You may want to insure your expensive equipment, but I don't insure any of my furniture. All these desks I've bought secondhand. I buy file cabinets and everything else secondhand, and they all look brand new when I buy them. So I wouldn't insure expensive furniture. I wouldn't buy expensive furniture to begin with. That's all inexpensive. So that kind of wraps everything up for insurance today. Coming up next, we have contracting. So last week I was out because I was out sick. And so I'm going to do that topic next week for contracting. In 2 weeks, we're going to be joined by some special guests, Stephanie Evergreen and Nina Sabar, and they're going to be talking about their branding chapter. And next week, I'll make sure to send out that chapter in advance so that you can read it before they show up. And with that, thank you for listening. And